The Ukrainian Army's 46th Separate Airmobile Brigade has carried out a military operation to repel a Russian attack on the front line. Video footage released in social media shows 2 Russian tanks and 2 armored fighting vehicles, taking advantage of the fog, trying to cross a river via a crossing in the area of responsibility of the 46th Separate Airmobile Brigade. The Russian troops hit the remotely deployed mines laid by Ukrainian drone operators. They were stuck in the mud, and were later destroyed by first-person view, FPV drones. The use of drones have played a key role in Ukraine's defenses in Russia's war of invasion. FPV drones, which are guided by operators using video headsets, have become makeshift, kamikaze weapons that crash directly into tanks, trenches, and vehicles loaded with explosives. Most of the drones used by the Ukrainian army were made locally. Ukraine has stepped up drone and missile attacks on its Russian-held territories and deep in Russia.
President Volodymyr Zelensky said behind closed doors that Ukraine's Flamingo cruise missile had already been used in actual combat operations 9 times. This was reported by the publication Le Figaro, citing informed sources. It means that 9 important Russian facilities were destroyed with these missiles. The president previously called the Flamingo the most powerful missile ever developed by Ukraine. Irina Terek, Chief Technical Officer of Firepoint, the developer, confirmed this assessment, noting that the missile has already proven its effectiveness. Details of the operations and targets for which the Flamingo was used are not disclosed. Ukraine is deliberately maintaining secrecy to avoid revealing the missile's technical capabilities and range. Le Figaro also notes that Kiev is considering the next stage of its missile program's development, the production of its own ballistic systems. According to the publication's sources, the Ukrainian defense industry already has the technological foundation for the transition to more sophisticated weaponry. The existence of the Flamingo missile became known in August 2025, when Volodymyr Zelensky first publicly announced it. The system's developer is the Ukrainian company Firepoint, founded after the start of Russia's full-scale invasion. The missile has a range of up to 3,000 kilometers and a warhead weighing over 1 ton. Flamingo is equipped with a modern navigation system and air defense evasion systems. The Flamingo's fuselage is made of carbon fiber, which is cheaper than titanium, and is 3D printed. The warhead is a standard aircraft bomb, and the engine is a Soviet-era twin-flow turbojet capable of reaching speeds of up to 900 kilometers an hour. All this comes at a price experts estimate at $500,000 per unit, compared to over $2 million for the Franco-British Scalp missile. The Flamingo's main advantage, its manufacturer emphasizes, remains its complete made in Ukraine status. With the exception of a few microchips and small parts, 90% of the components are Ukrainian. This sovereignty has become the company's motto. We use open-source software for the guidance system, rather than proprietary versions like Windows or Unix. We can independently verify the code and ensure there are no hidden components or functions that could allow a foreign manufacturer to disable the weapon, explains Firepoint's CTO and chief designer Denis Stillerman. This is a major advantage for Kyiv, as the use of long-range weapons supplied by its partners often comes with certain conditions, regardless of the power of our weapons. Talking about game-changing warfare is pointless, Irina Terek corrects. If we were to gather all the Western weapons tomorrow, it still wouldn't be enough to end the war. What truly makes a difference is the ecosystem that enabled the creation of Flamingo. Close collaboration between the manufacturer, the armed forces, which constantly inform us of local needs, and the government, which streamlines procedures so we can act more quickly. After all, we must constantly adapt our weapons, the technical director asserts. Wonder weapon or not, Flamingo is the best map we have, says Valery Romanenko, an aviation expert and researcher at the State Aviation Museum of Ukraine. Of course, the missile remains vulnerable. It flies low and is more visible, being twice as large as Scalp. But where a drone carrying 75 to 100 kilograms of payload would damage an oil refinery, Flamingo will disable it for months, if not years. The expert explained. In his opinion, these weapons will only be used if they are produced in large quantities. Our own defense system intercepts 90% of Russian missiles, and we can expect the same for the Russian side. If we want to overwhelm their defense system, we will need to produce these missiles en masse, the expert believes. A scandal has erupted in Yakutia, Russia, surrounding Vasily Trifonov, a veteran of the so-called SVO. Authorities evicted the occupier from an apartment he had been given for his participation in the aggression against Ukraine. The man filmed the incident, complaining that he was being evicted in the winter in October right onto the street. Bailiffs came to Trifonov's home and declared that the apartment belonged to someone else. The so-called veteran was forced to leave the apartment despite the state's promises of support for war veterans. They came to evict me. It was winter, October. I'm an SVO member. You see how they do things here? The bailiffs came to take my apartment. They took my apartment that evening. So, guys, don't fight in the SVO, the occupier declared. This episode is yet another example of how the Russian authorities treat those they themselves sent to fight against Ukraine. While propaganda promises care and support, in reality, the occupiers are being thrown out onto the streets without the slightest sympathy. Trifonov's story clearly demonstrates that for the Kremlin, veterans are merely expendable, losing their value immediately upon returning from the front. Russia uses its soldiers as instruments of war, then dispose of them as soon as they become unnecessary. Recall, Russian government struggles to get more people to sign up for an army contract in certain regions. They are already offered as much as 5 million rubles or a $50,000 one-time payout on sign-up. But there's a catch. The sign-up bonus isn't paid immediately, the new recruits report. The new recruits are getting just a 5-day training, and then they are thrown into attacks on the Ukrainian positions. Only if a soldier survives 4 to 5 attacks, then they are paid out the sign-up bonus. Most of them don't. And if the soldier dies, the sign-up bonus is never paid. The soldier's death is put through the books as peacetime casualty during training. No 5 million death payout. No 4.8 million sign-up bonus, not even 240,000 rubles salary. Maybe the recruit will get 30,000 rubles, 1 month wage, which is what the peacetime salary is in the Russian army. The Russians governing are out of cash, but they found a way how to screw up the greedy recruits. The soldiers also report that they aren't getting paid 3 million for serious wounds as they were promised. Instead, they are handcuffed in hospitals as soon as they regain consciousness and quickly shipped back to the front, where they are literally sent into attacks on crutches. This way, the state doesn't need to spend money on their treatment and rehabilitation. The soldiers don't get paid 3 million for being wounded, and there is no need to pay them disability pension when the war ends. Just send them into a kamikaze attack. If the soldiers refuse to go into attack, they are punished, stripped to underwear and thrown in a hole in the ground. No clothes. Several people. In winter, after getting a severe beating with sticks. After a couple of days in the hole, the men who survive are again told to go into a meat attack. If they again refuse, they may be shot in front of the unit.